When Mark and I broke up after nearly 3 years together, I genuinely thought my world was falling apart. And my best friend Rachel was the one who held everything together for me during those first few brutal weeks. She showed up at my apartment almost every single day with takeout and my favorite movies, letting me cry on her shoulder for hours without ever once making me feel like a burden. Rachel constantly reassured me that Mark had made a huge mistake letting me go, calling him selfish and immature every time his name came up in conversation. She helped me delete old photos, blocked his number from my phone when I wasn't strong enough to do it myself, and even offered to go with me whenever I needed to pick up remaining belongings from what used to be our shared apartment. I felt incredibly grateful to have a friend like her during such a painful transition, someone who seemed to genuinely have my back without any hesitation whatsoever. Looking back now, I had absolutely no idea that her constant presence in my life during that specific period had a completely different explanation than simple friendship and support. About 2 months after the breakup, I started noticing Rachel becoming increasingly busy on weekends, something that felt unusual since we had always spent most of our free time together before everything happened with Mark. She began giving vague explanations about family obligations or work-related events whenever I asked what she had been up to, details that felt oddly inconsistent whenever I mentioned them again later in conversation. One evening, Rachel casually referenced a specific restaurant Mark and I used to frequent together, describing a recent renovation they had done to the outdoor patio area. Information she really had no reason to know unless she had actually been there herself recently. When I asked how she knew about it, she quickly changed the subject, mentioning something about seeing photos online without really answering my question directly. Another time, she mentioned Mark had finally started taking better care of his health, going into small specific details about his new gym routine that felt oddly detailed for someone who supposedly hadn't spoken to him since our breakup happened months earlier. The turning point came when I drove past Mark's apartment building one evening on my way home from a completely unrelated errand, and noticed Rachel's distinctive blue car parked directly outside in the visitor spot she always complained was impossible to find during busy hours. I told myself there had to be some reasonable explanation. Perhaps she was simply visiting a different friend who happened to live in the same building. Complex as Mark, still feeling uneasy, I decided to check Rachel's social media accounts more carefully that night, something I rarely did since we talked constantly in person anyway. I found a private photo album that had accidentally been left partially public, containing pictures from a hiking trip dated just 3 weeks earlier, showing Rachel and Mark together at a scenic overlook, clearly comfortable and affectionate in a way that went far beyond simple friendship. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through additional photos, realizing this had likely been going on for much longer than just a few weeks based on how relaxed and familiar they appeared together throughout the entire album. Instead of confronting Rachel immediately, based only on photos that could theoretically be explained away somehow, I decided to test the situation more directly first. I mentioned casually during our next conversation that I was thinking about attending a mutual friend's birthday dinner that weekend, one I knew Mark had also been invited to separately through his own friend group. Rachel immediately claimed she already had weekend plans and couldn't make it to the same dinner, an excuse that felt suspicious given how much she usually loved attending group gatherings like that one. That Saturday night, I asked another mutual friend to send me a quick photo from the dinner, and there in the background of one picture, clearly visible at a nearby table, sat Rachel and Mark together, sharing what was obviously a private dinner date rather than any kind of coincidental encounter. I finally had undeniable visual proof, time-stamped and completely unmistakable, confirming everything. The earlier photos and strange behavior had already been strongly suggesting for weeks. When I showed Rachel the photo the following day, she initially tried claiming it was purely coincidental, insisting they had simply run into each other at the same restaurant by complete accident. The story completely fell apart once I mentioned the earlier hiking photos and her car parked outside his building weeks earlier, evidence she clearly hadn't realized I had already discovered. Rachel finally admitted she and Mark had started seeing each other quietly, just a few weeks after our breakup, deliberately hiding it from me because she knew exactly how much it would hurt given everything she had helped me through during that same painful period. I ended the friendship completely that same day, unable to reconcile the person who had comforted me through heartbreak with someone secretly betraying me in exactly that way behind my back. Several of our other mutual friends distanced themselves from Rachel once the full story became known, understanding why her actions felt like such a deep betrayal beyond just a normal breakup situation. Looking back, trusting that uneasy feeling and quietly gathering proof before confronting her directly protected me from being gaslit into doubting my own instincts about the entire situation. If you ever notice inconsistencies in someone close to you, especially during a vulnerable time in your life, trust that feeling and look closer before dismissing it. If you want more real stories like this one, with twists you will not see coming, make sure you subscribe so you never miss the next one.